My life felt like a muted movie, all the motions there, but the sound was perpetually off. Married at 24, a respectable match, a beautiful home, the whole damn package. Except the package was mostly delivered to my doorstep, unwrapped, and left for me to assemble. Mark, my husband, was a master of logistics, a VP at some tech firm that required him to be on the road more than he was home. Chicago, New York, San Francisco. He jetted between them like a goddamn migratory bird. And me? I was Avery, the dutiful wife, the one who kept the home fires burning, except the fire was more like a pilot light, barely flickering. I tried, God, I tried, to fill the void with brunches with the girls, volunteering at the local animal shelter, even attempting to cultivate a green thumb, which ended in a massacre of succulents. Nothing stuck. One Saturday night, fueled by a bottle of Pinot Grigio and a particularly lonely episode of Housewives, I decided I needed a jolt. Anything to remind me that I was still breathing. That's how I ended up at the Velvet Rope, a nightclub downtown that my friend, Chloe, swore was the hottest spot in the city. Just go, Avery. Let loose. You deserve it, she'd chirped over the phone, conveniently forgetting that she was happily coupled up and binge-watching Netflix with her boyfriend. The Velvet Rope was exactly as advertised, velvet ropes, throbbing bass, and a sea of bodies glistening under neon lights. I felt out of place. My little black dress, usually my go-to for a night out, suddenly felt too tight, too desperate. The men who eyed me up and down did so, with a predatory hunger that made my skin crawl. It wasn't the attention I craved, it was connection, something real. I ordered a vodka soda, sipped it slowly, and watched the chaos unfold. A group of guys tried to pull me onto the dance floor, their hands a little too eager, their eyes a little too glazed. I politely declined, backing away slowly, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my chest. Not really my scene, I mumbled, excusing myself and retreating to a quieter corner of the bar. Leaning against the cool marble, I felt a wave of self-pity wash over me. Here I was trying to be someone I wasn't, chasing a thrill that just wasn't there. This wasn't me. The night was a bust, and the vodka soda was doing little to soothe the growing ache in my chest. Rough night, a voice asked, startling me. I turned to see a woman leaning against the bar beside me, her expression a mixture of amusement and genuine concern. She was stunning. Tall, with long, dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, she had these piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through me. Her black tank top showed off toned arms and a hint of something more, and her low-slung jeans hugged her hips just right. She exuded a confidence that I envied. You could say that, I admitted, managing a weak smile. Just trying to escape for a bit. Escaping what? She asked, her voice low and husky. I hesitated, suddenly feeling exposed. Life, I guess, I finally said. It's complicated. She nodded, understanding flickering in her eyes. Life usually is. I'm Claire, by the way. Avery, I replied, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, warm, and sent a strange shiver up my arm. We stood there for a moment, just looking at each other, the noise of the club fading into the background. There was something about her, a magnetic pull that I couldn't quite explain. It wasn't just physical attraction, though God knows, she was gorgeous. It was something deeper, a sense of connection, of being seen. So, Avery, she said, breaking the silence. What does a complicated life look like? And just like that, I found myself pouring out my heart to a complete stranger, telling her about Mark, about the loneliness, about the emptiness that had been growing inside me for years. She listened patiently, offering no judgment, just a quiet understanding that was more comforting than anything I'd felt in a long time. As the night wore on, and the crowd thinned out, Claire and I talked for hours. We discovered a shared love for old movies, a mutual disdain for reality TV, and a surprising number of other things in common. The more I learned about her, the more intrigued I became. She was a trainer at a local gym, passionate about fitness, and helping people achieve their goals. She seemed to have her life together, a stark contrast to my own messy existence. You know, she said, as we were finally getting ready to leave, you look like you could use a good workout. It's a great way to relieve stress and clear your head. Maybe, I said, feeling a flicker of interest. I've been thinking about joining a gym. Well, she said, her eyes sparkling. If you do, come check out the Body Shop. That's where I work. I could even give you a free session. Really? I asked, surprised. Really, she confirmed, handing me a business card. It's on me. Think of it as a way to escape your complicated life, even if just for an hour. I took the card, my fingers brushing against hers. The contact sent another shiver through me, stronger this time. I looked at the card, her name printed in bold letters. Claire Montgomery. Thanks, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I might just take you up on that. As I walked out of the velvet rope, the cool night air felt different, cleaner. The ache in my chest had eased, replaced by a flutter of anticipation. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, Claire Montgomery was the escape I'd been searching for. The business card sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days, a constant reminder of that night at the velvet rope. Claire Montgomery. The name echoed in my head, a siren song pulling me towards the unknown. I found myself making excuses to drive past the Body Shop, a sleek, modern building tucked away in a trendy part of town. Each time, I'd slow down, peering inside, trying to catch a glimpse of her through the tinted windows. The guilt was a persistent gnawing in my stomach. Mark was due back from Chicago next week, and the thought of his return filled me with a sense of dread. Our conversations had become predictable, stale. He'd ask about the house, the dogs, the usual. I'd give him the Cliff's Notes version, careful to avoid any mention of my own feelings, my own desires. Finally, on Wednesday afternoon, I couldn't resist any longer. I grabbed the card, jumped in my car, and drove to the Body Shop. The gym was buzzing with energy. Music pulsed through the air, a mix of hip-hop and electronic beats. People of all shapes and sizes were working out, their faces flushed with exertion. The air smelled of sweat and something else, something cleaner, more invigorating. I approached the front desk, feeling a surge of nervousness. A young woman with bright pink hair greeted me with a smile. Hi, welcome to the Body Shop. How can I help you? Hi, I said, trying to sound casual. I'm Avery, and I think I have an appointment with Claire Montgomery? The woman's smile widened. You must be Avery. Claire was expecting you. Just go ahead and have a seat. She'll be right out. I took a seat in the waiting area, my heart pounding in my chest. I scanned the room, trying to distract myself. There were motivational posters on the walls, images of sculpted bodies and inspirational quotes. I felt a pang of inadequacy. I wasn't a gym person. I preferred yoga and long walks, gentle exercises that didn't require too much effort. Avery? I looked up to see Claire standing in front of me, her green eyes sparkling with warmth. She was even more stunning in the daylight. Her hair was pulled back in a high ponytail, and she was wearing a black sports bra and leggings that showed off her incredible physique. Hey, I said, feeling my cheeks flush. Thanks for seeing me. Of course, she said, her voice low and husky. I'm glad you came. Ready to sweat. I followed her through the gym, feeling self-conscious as I walked past rows of treadmills and weight machines. Claire led me to a quieter area in the back, a space filled with yoga mats and resistance bands. So, she said, turning to face me, what are your fitness goals? Fitness goals. I repeated, feeling a bit lost. I don't know really. Just to feel better, I guess. Less stressed. Claire smiled. That's a great start. We can definitely work with that. First, let's assess your current fitness level. For the next hour, Claire put me through a series of exercises, testing my strength, flexibility, and endurance. I struggled through push-ups, squatted awkwardly, and nearly tripped over a resistance band. I felt clumsy and uncoordinated, a far cry from the confident woman I pretended to be. But Claire was patient and encouraging, offering gentle corrections and words of support. She never made me feel inadequate, even when I clearly was. Her touch was light but firm, guiding my movements, adjusting my posture. Each time her hand brushed against my skin, a jolt of electricity shot through me. "Okay," she said after we finished the assessment. "I have a good idea of where you're at. I think we can put together a program that will really work for you." "Really?" I asked, surprised. "You think I can actually get in shape?" Claire laughed. "Of course you can. Everyone can. It just takes time, dedication, and the right guidance." "And you're the right guidance?" I teased, feeling a spark of flirtation. "I like to think so," she said, her eyes sparkling. "I'm pretty good at what I do." Over the next few weeks, I became a regular at the body shop. I met Claire 3 times a week for personal training sessions, and I started coming in on my own on the other days, following the program she had designed for me. I hated it at first. My muscles ached, I was constantly sore, and I felt like I was going to pass out half the time. But slowly, gradually, I started to see results. My clothes fit better, I had more energy, and I felt stronger, both physically and mentally. But the biggest change was my growing attraction to Claire. Each session, her flirtatious comments became more frequent, her touches lingered longer. I found myself looking forward to our workouts not just for the physical benefits, but for the chance to be near her, to bask in her energy, to feel her gaze on my skin. One afternoon, after a particularly intense workout, Claire walked me to my car. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the parking lot. "You're doing great, Avery," she said, her voice soft. "I'm really proud of you." "Thanks," I said, feeling my heart pounding. "I couldn't have done it without you." We stood there for a moment, just looking at each other. The air crackled with unspoken desire. I knew what was coming. I could feel it in my bones. "Avery," she said, her voice barely a whisper. She reached out and gently touched my cheek, her fingers sending shivers down my spine. "I think you're amazing," she said, her eyes searching mine. "And I want to kiss you." My breath caught in my throat. I knew I should say no, that it was wrong, that I was married. But I couldn't resist. The pull towards her was too strong, too powerful. "Then kiss me," I whispered, closing my eyes and leaning in. The kiss was electric. A jolt of pure, unadulterated desire that shot through me, erasing all doubts, all guilt, all hesitation. It was nothing like the polite, perfunctory pecks I shared with Mark. This was raw, passionate, and real. The world around us faded away. The setting sun, the bustling parking lot, the nagging voice in my head, all gone. There was only Claire, only the taste of her lips, the feel of her body pressed against mine. We kissed for what felt like an eternity, lost in our own little world. Finally, breathless, we pulled apart, our eyes locked. "Wow," I whispered, my voice shaky. Claire smiled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Yeah, wow." The silence hung heavy between us, charged with unspoken emotions. I knew this was a turning point, a moment of no return. I could walk away, pretend it never happened, go back to my safe, predictable life. Or I could embrace the unknown, surrender to my desires, and risk everything for a chance at something real. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice barely audible. Claire reached out and took my hand, her touch sending another shiver through me. "That's up to you, Avery." We stood there for another moment, just holding hands, our eyes locked. Then, Claire leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Come back to my place. We need to talk." My heart pounded in my chest. I knew what talk really meant. It meant crossing a line, stepping into forbidden territory. But I couldn't resist. The pull towards Claire was too strong. "Okay," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Okay, I'll come." Claire's apartment was small but stylish, a reflection of her vibrant personality. It was filled with plants, art, and books, a cozy haven that felt miles away from my sterile, perfectly decorated home. "Make yourself comfortable," she said, gesturing towards the living room. "I'll grab us some water." I sat down on the plush velvet couch, my mind racing. What was I doing? I was a married woman, about to cheat on her husband. I should leave, I should turn around and run. But then Claire returned, handing me a glass of water. Her presence was grounding, calming. I took a sip, trying to steady my nerves. "So," she said, sitting down beside me, "we need to talk about what happened out there." "I know," I said, feeling a surge of guilt. "I shouldn't have kissed you. I'm married." Claire nodded. "I know. And I wouldn't have kissed you if I didn't think you wanted it. But I also know that you're not happy, Avery. You told me yourself." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. She was right. I wasn't happy. I hadn't been happy for a long time. "What am I supposed to do?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I can't just leave. It's not that simple." "I'm not asking you to leave," Claire said softly. "I'm just asking you to be honest with yourself. What do you want, Avery? What do you really want?" I looked at her, her eyes filled with sincerity and understanding. In that moment, I knew the answer. I wanted Claire. I wanted to be with her, to explore this intense connection, to feel alive again. "I want you," I whispered, my voice barely audible. Claire smiled, a slow, sensual smile that sent shivers down my spine. "Then what are we waiting for?" She leaned in and kissed me again, this time with more urgency, more passion. I surrendered to the kiss, letting go of all inhibitions, all reservations. We moved to the bedroom, a dimly lit space filled with soft music and the scent of lavender. Claire undressed me slowly, deliberately, her eyes never leaving mine. Each touch was a revelation, a discovery. I had never felt so desired, so alive. With Mark, sex had become a routine, a chore. But with Claire, it was something different, something magical. It was a connection on a deeper level, a merging of souls. It was passionate, tender, and real. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen, I felt understood, I felt free. As we lay in bed, exhausted but content, I knew that my life had changed forever. I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. I was having an affair with a woman, and I had never felt more alive. The days that followed were a dizzying mix of euphoria and anxiety. I was walking on air whenever I was with Claire, lost in our own little world of stolen moments and passionate encounters. But the guilt was always there, lurking in the shadows, a constant reminder of my betrayal to Mark. I found myself lying more and more, crafting elaborate excuses to explain my absences. Working late, I'd say, or grabbing dinner with Chloe. Each lie felt like a tiny pinprick to my conscience, slowly deflating my soul. Mark was oblivious, wrapped up in his work, his mind miles away. He didn't notice the changes in me, the subtle shifts in my demeanor. He didn't see the spark in my eyes, the newfound confidence in my step. He was too busy being Mark, the successful businessman, the provider, the man who was always somewhere else. Claire, on the other hand, saw everything. She saw the joy in my eyes, the passion in my touch. She also saw the guilt, the fear, the internal conflict that was tearing me apart. "You can't keep living like this, Avery," she said one evening, as we lay in bed after making love. "It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to Mark." I knew she was right, but the thought of confronting Mark, of admitting my affair, filled me with dread. I had no idea how he would react, what he would say. He might be angry, hurt, or worse, indifferent. "I know," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I just don't know how to do it." Claire reached out and took my hand, her touch grounding me. "You have to be honest with him, Avery. You owe him that much. And you owe it to yourself to be true to your feelings." Her words resonated deep within me. I knew she was right. I couldn't keep living a lie. I had to be brave. I had to face the consequences of my actions. "Okay," I said, my voice stronger this time. "I'll do it. I'll talk to him." Mark was due back from his latest trip on Friday night. I spent the entire day preparing, both mentally and emotionally. I rehearsed what I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it. I wanted to be honest, but also compassionate. I didn't want to hurt him any more than necessary. When he finally arrived, he was tired and jet-lagged. He barely acknowledged me as he dragged his suitcase into the house, his mind already on his next meeting, his next deal. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual. Welcome home. He grunted in response, barely glancing at me.
Hey.
Long day. I'm going to crash. My heart sank. This was not the time, not the place. But I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I had to do it now. Mark, I said, my voice trembling. Can we talk? I have something I need to tell you. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Can it wait, Avery? I'm exhausted. No, I said, my voice firm. It can't wait. He looked at me then, his eyes finally focusing on my face. He saw the seriousness in my expression, the tension in my posture. What's wrong? He asked, his voice laced with concern. I took a deep breath and plunged in. I've been seeing someone, I said, my voice barely audible. His face paled. What? I've been having an affair, I said, the words tumbling out of my mouth. With a woman. The silence that followed was deafening. Mark stared at me, his eyes wide with disbelief. His face was a mask of shock and hurt. A woman, he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. You're having an affair with a woman? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I'm so sorry, Mark. I didn't mean for this to happen. But I can't deny my feelings any longer. He stood there for a moment, frozen in place. Then he exploded. How could you do this to me? He shouted, his voice filled with rage. How could you betray me like this? I didn't want to hurt you, I said, my voice breaking. But I'm not happy, Mark. I haven't been happy for a long time. I need something more. More, he scoffed. I gave you everything. A beautiful house, a comfortable life. What more could you possibly want? I want love, I said, my voice trembling. I want connection. I want to feel alive. He stared at me, his eyes filled with contempt. You're disgusting, he said, his voice dripping with venom. I can't believe I wasted my life with you. He turned and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. I stood there, shaking, the tears streaming down my face. It was over. My marriage was over. And I had no idea what the future held. But as I stood there, alone in the empty house, I felt a sense of relief. The lie was over. The truth was out. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. The fallout was swift and brutal. Mark filed for divorce almost immediately, his anger fueling a desire for retribution. Lawyers were involved, assets were divided, and the comfortable life I had known crumbled around me like a house of cards. I moved out of our sprawling suburban home and into a small, one-bedroom apartment downtown. It was a far cry from the luxury I was used to, but it was mine. A fresh start, a clean slate. The days were filled with paperwork, legal consultations, and the constant gnawing of anxiety. The nights were even worse, haunted by the ghosts of my past, the memories of what I had lost. Chloe, bless her heart, was my rock throughout the ordeal. She listened to my endless rants, offered words of support, and kept me from spiraling into complete despair. You did the right thing, Avery, she insisted, time and time again. You deserve to be happy. Don't let Mark's bitterness ruin that for you. But even Chloe's unwavering support couldn't completely erase the guilt and regret that plagued me. I had hurt Mark, I had betrayed his trust, and I would carry that burden with me for the rest of my life. Claire, of course, was my safe haven. Her love and acceptance were a balm to my wounded soul. She held me when I cried, reassured me when I doubted myself, and reminded me that I was worthy of love and happiness. This is just a chapter, Avery, she said, as we sat on my new apartment's balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below. It's not the whole story. We'll get through this together. But even with Claire's love, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had ruined everything. My marriage, my reputation, my financial security, all gone, sacrificed at the altar of my desire for Claire. One afternoon, I received a phone call from Mark's mother, Susan. We had always been close, and I had considered her a second mother to me. Avery, she said, her voice tight with emotion. I'm so disappointed in you. Her words hit me like a physical blow. I'm sorry, Susan, I said, tears welling up in my eyes. I never meant to hurt anyone. You broke my son's heart, she said, her voice trembling. He loved you, Avery. And you threw it all away for what? A fling with some girl? It's not a fling, I said, my voice rising in defense. I love Claire. She makes me happy in a way that Mark never could. Don't you dare try to justify your behavior, she snapped. You made a mistake, Avery. A terrible mistake. And you'll regret it for the rest of your life. She hung up the phone, leaving me sobbing uncontrollably. Her words echoed in my head, fueling my doubts and insecurities. Had I made a mistake? Was I destined to regret my decision? Later that evening, I met Claire at the body shop for our usual workout session. I was distracted and unfocused, my mind still reeling from Susan's phone call. What's wrong? Claire asked, noticing my distress. You seem off. I hesitated for a moment, then poured out my heart to her, telling her about the phone call, about my doubts, about my fears. Claire listened patiently, her eyes filled with compassion. When I was finished, she took my hand and squeezed it gently. Listen to me, Avery, she said, her voice firm but gentle. You can't let other people's opinions dictate your happiness. This is your life, your decision. And if being with me makes you happy, then that's all that matters. But what if I'm wrong? I asked, my voice trembling. What if I'm making a mistake? Claire smiled, her eyes sparkling with love. There are no guarantees in life, Avery. We all make mistakes. But the important thing is to learn from them, to grow from them, and to never give up on love. She leaned in and kissed me, a slow, tender kiss that filled me with warmth and reassurance. I love you, Avery, she whispered, her voice barely audible. And I'm not going anywhere. We'll face whatever comes our way, together. Her words were a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the darkness. I knew that I wasn't alone, that I had Claire by my side, and that together, we could overcome anything. From that moment on, I made a conscious decision to focus on the present, to embrace my love for Claire, and to let go of the guilt and regret that had been holding me back. The divorce was finalized a few months later. It was a painful and messy process, but I emerged on the other side, bruised but not broken. I had lost a lot, but I had also gained something invaluable: the freedom to be myself, to live authentically, and to love without reservation. And as I looked into Claire's eyes, I knew that I had made the right choice. My life was far from perfect, but it was mine. And with Claire by my side, I was ready to face whatever the future held, with love, hope, and a newfound sense of purpose. 2 years drifted by, painted with the hues of contentment and the occasional shade of challenge. My one-bedroom apartment had transformed into a cozy sanctuary, filled with shared laughter, whispered secrets, and the comforting aroma of Claire's Sunday morning pancakes. The whispers hadn't entirely ceased. There were still sideways glances and hushed tones when Mark and I crossed paths at a mutual friends gathering, or when Susan's Christmas card arrived each year, pointedly addressed only to Mark. But their disapproval held less weight with each passing day. I had built a life grounded in authenticity, and external judgments felt like pebbles against a fortress. My career had also taken an unexpected turn. After the divorce, I'd found it difficult to return to my old life in corporate law. The sterile environment and the cutthroat competition felt hollow after the raw honesty I'd embraced. Instead, I took a leap of faith and pursued my passion for animals, volunteering at a local rescue shelter. It was messy, often heartbreaking work, but the unconditional love I received from the rescued creatures filled a void I hadn't even realized existed. Eventually, I landed a paid position as the shelter's adoption coordinator, finding immense satisfaction in matching furry friends with their forever homes. Claire's career flourished as well. Her dedication and infectious enthusiasm had earned her a loyal clientele at the body shop. She had even started her own online fitness program, reaching people across the country with her message of self-love and empowerment. One crisp autumn evening, Claire surprised me with a picnic in our favorite park. The leaves were ablaze with color, the air filled with the scent of wood smoke and fallen leaves. As we sat on a blanket, sharing sandwiches and sipping wine, Claire reached into her backpack and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart skipped a beat. I knew what was coming. "Avery," she said, her eyes sparkling with love. "You came into my life at a time when I didn't even know I was searching for something. You showed me the meaning of vulnerability, the power of honesty, and the beauty of unconditional love. You are my best friend, my soulmate, my everything. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded, unable to speak. Claire slipped the ring onto my finger, a delicate band of intertwined silver and emeralds. "Yes," I finally managed to whisper, my voice choked with emotion. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." We kissed, the taste of wine and autumn leaves mingling on our lips. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the warmth of Claire's love, I knew that I had found my true home. Our wedding was small and intimate, held in the garden of the rescue shelter where I worked. Surrounded by our closest friends and family and a few well-behaved canine guests, we exchanged vows of love, loyalty, and laughter. As I looked into Claire's eyes, I knew that our journey wouldn't always be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But I also knew that we would face them together, hand in hand, with unwavering love and unwavering commitment. I had traded a life of comfort and security for a life of authenticity and passion. I had lost some things along the way, but I had gained something far more valuable: the freedom to be myself, the courage to follow my heart, and the unwavering love of the woman of my dreams. And as I stood there, holding Claire's hand, I knew that I had finally found my happily ever after. The muted movie of my life had found its sound, and it was playing the sweetest melody I had ever heard.